In this Jubilee clip, Micheal Knowles dog walks a biological male who identifies as a trans woman and insists that every mental health problem that he carried for years magically vanished the moment he received so-called gender affirming care. But this exchange is not really about one's personal feelings. It's about whether we are still permitted to notice patterns that the prevailing ideology forbids us to name. It's about whether the ideology belongs in our schools, whether biological males should be permitted in women's protected spaces, whether we must tolerate pride parades that feature public indecency on our streets and in front of our kids, and whether taxpayers should be compelled to fund the entire apparatus. This guy tries to justify policies that affect children, women's safety, public order, and the public purse with a personal claim that transitioning fixed everything after 12 months. That is why the data and the logic matter more now than ever. All right, let's get into it.
I'm good.
I think because initially the prompt was about LGBTQIA identity, and we're really hyper-focusing on that trans identity.
We can do any identity.
Absolutely. So I kind of just want to speak from my own anecdotal experience. I'm not here to debate, change anybody's mind. What I can tell you is that pre-transition, all of the mental health issues I had, all of that was starting before I transitioned.
Yeah.
Since I transitioned, started my hormones, have done all the right things, gotten my gender affirming care, all of these issues, problems I've had have alleviated.
How long ago did you do it?
About a year ago.
Yeah. That is also backed up in the scientific literature, that there can be short-term improvements to mental health, or even a short-term euphoria. But the long-term, I mean, people are laughing at this.
Well, because it's ridiculous.
Well, okay. So in 2019, the American Journal of Psychiatry published a study giving the largest data set on
so
transgender
anecdotal
identity.
Experience doesn't matter at all.
It does, but it doesn't matter as much as data, because data is just a lot of anecdotes, many. So it looked at much longer term analysis, and what it tried to argue was that the transgender hormones and surgical treatments did improve outcomes on anxiety and suicide and depression. But they had to issue a correction very quickly, because there was a methodological error, and when they admitted this.
I'm not interested in talking about policy. I'm really talking about.
But I'm talking about science, not policy.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm sitting here in front of you as a trans woman who is telling you that every issue I've had before, mental health problem before I started my hormones, is gone.
And I'm telling you, statistically, it's going to come back.
You're wrong. Like you can't predict the future.
The science.
Like I don't know.
I'm not predicting the future, and maybe you'll be one of the lucky few. I guess my point is this. If you look at not just one anecdote, but actually your anecdote actually fits into the scientific literature.
It doesn't.
It does.
It doesn't. I've been a trans person since I was a child. I've experienced the gender dysphoria my entire life. And the second I got on my hormones, everything started improving.
You started doing it a year ago.
About a year ago. I've also been socially out as a gender ambiguous person since I was 22.
Sure.
You don't know anything about my medical history.
I'm not claiming to know anything about your medical history.
You're trying to claim that you know about my medical history.
I certainly have not. When have I done that?
Then in the future, I'm not going to be okay.
No, I'm not saying that either. I'm saying statistically, you probably won't. I'm saying that the largest data set.
How many trans women do you know? Trans people, I'd love to know.
Apparently not enough.
Clearly not enough, babe.
What I'm telling you, and I know you're talking over me because you don't want to hear this, but what I'm telling you is the largest data set, the largest study ever conducted to follow the long-term outcomes of transgender identifying people, found that not only did their suicide rates and depression not improve, their anxiety actually went up. And so what I'm telling you is, if you're feeling a kind of euphoria that pretending that you were the opposite sex has made you feel better.
Pretending I'm the opposted sex.
Yes, you are pretending.
Lovely.
And I don't think that it's respectful to lie to people.
I'm pretending pretty good, don't you guys think? Yeah?
You're not pretending pretty good.
I think everybody else here.
I think you might be really angry with me for telling you the truth.
I feel like I'm remaining quite.
You're remaining relatively calm, but I think you're
angry.
I think you're probably not thrilled that I'm telling you that you're not really angry.
I don't care.
Do you not? You're sitting here talking to me. It seems like you care a lot.
I'm here to give context to a conversation that you clearly know nothing about. You don't know any trans. Do you know personally any trans people? You never really.
I know a number of people who identify as trans.
And so they're not.
I know some who have gone back the other way because it was ruining their lives.
I'd love to hear.
Yeah, you'd love to hear about the people who regret it.
I'd love to hear who they are.
I don't know. I was just with a couple of them the other night
Okay,
at
what
a
are their
political
names?
party. Well, Chloe Cole would be probably the most famous example.
Okay.
I don't
And
know if
how's
you've
she
seen her
doing?
work. She's doing much better now. I've interviewed a number of people who have detransitioned on this show. The only reason I'm mentioning the detransitioners is you might think that it's really nice to affirm you in your delusion that you're the opposite
It's not
sex.
nice. I have to do it. If
You
I
don't have to
didn't
do it.
start my gender hormone therapy, anything like that, I wouldn't be here right now having
Why?
this conversation with you because of gender dysphoria.
Because what? You would have...
I just think that there are a lot of avenues that could have happened if I didn't
Such as?
start my hormone. I just don't think that the broadness that you're bringing to the table right now is useful.
I'm bringing scientific specificity and
Also,
logical
you told
precision.
me you've met a detransition person, but I'm
number
asking
of
if you
them.
know a transgender woman.
I know people who identify
Okay.
as transgender.
And how are they doing?
Not well.
Really?
Yeah. And statistically, it's a good line. That was off camera. They said probably because they know me. Statistically, 32 to 50% of people who identify as trans will kill themselves. And that's really bad. And I think that if there's anything we can do to improve
But do we
that
know
number...
about like their access that they have to hormone therapy? Do we know about any access
Yeah.
to medical care?
Yeah, it doesn't,
Okay, what is it?
It doesn't improve. That's what I was trying to tell you about the study.
I'm waiting.
The suicide rates don't improve after they access all of that supposed
Where
care.
did you get that from? I'm very interested.
From the American Journal of Psychiatry.
So that was a lot. And you had to listen carefully to what the man actually said. He admits the mental health struggles began before his transition. He had gender dysphoria his entire life. He was out as a gender ambiguous person since age 22. Then he started hormones roughly a year ago. And suddenly, like magic, everything is fixed. Knowles' response is the one that the cameras and the audience are trained to treat as cruel. Statistically, it is going to come back. And Knowles even looks at the man in a very serious way because I think that he was trying to get it through to this man that he's still at risk. And Knowles isn't guessing. He is pointing to the largest long-term data set that has ever been rigorously examined. In 2019, the American Journal of Psychiatry published a major Swedish population study claiming that gender-affirming surgery produced lasting reductions in mental health treatment needs. Within months, the journal was forced to issue a correction. The reanalysis showed no advantage of surgery on mood disorders, anxiety treatment, prescriptions, or hospitalizations after self-deletion attempts. The original triumphant conclusion had to be walked back because the data did not support it. This is the pattern the ideology never wants examined. People arrive with heavy, pre-existing burdens like depression, anxiety, trauma, personality disorders, sometimes autism or same-sex attraction that just gets reframed. I mean, how easy must it be for a confused little boy to fall prey to this during his years of development when he is supposed to be able to trust and look up to his elders? Instead, they are told that the single problem with them is that they're in the wrong body. Change the body and the rest will sort itself out. Helen Weberly and the affirmative crowd have sold this for years. Affirm early, affirm hard, and all the comorbidities just melt away. The data, when it is not massaged or limited to short-term snapshots or straight up lied about, refuses to cooperate with that assertion. For some biological males, the transition is not primarily about an internal sense of womanhood by any means. It is a strategic exit from a male status hierarchy and competition that they experience as failure or irrelevance. In a culture that simultaneously tells men they are toxic and unnecessary and tells women they possess moral and social privilege worth claiming, some men calculate that identifying as women grants them access to that protected status while still demanding the social deference and respect once reserved for men. It's a shortcut around the hard work of becoming competent, responsible, and respected as a man. For some biological females, the inverse, the mirror image operates. Feminist ideology has spent decades teaching girls that their bodies are sites of oppression, that femininity equals weakness, and that power and respect flow to those who perform masculinity. Transition becomes the ultimate act of feminist self-actualization. Escape the female body, escape the supposed prison of womanhood. She immediately seeks what she perceives as the most empowering act according to this feminist framework. Then, reality arrives. Reality does not reorganize itself around this new identity, although they wish it would. Social dynamics remain stubbornly sexed, and the only difference is that she's paying for her own drinks now. And the problems that were never about being in the wrong body remain untouched. Both routes rest on the same materialistic premise. The body is a meat suit. It has no intrinsic meaning, no teleology, and no connection to the soul or the psyche that cannot be overridden by a declaration or medical intervention. This is not sophisticated philosophy. It is a degraded form of Gnosticism dressed in lab coats and rainbow pride flags. The ancient Christian understanding, and plain observation, has always held that the human person is a unified body-soul composite. You cannot carve the body to match a disordered perception without doing violence to the whole person. When a person who has been chemically or behaviorally enslaved for years finally stops, there is often a brief euphoric window. Life feels bright. Old problems seem solved. The fog lifts and everything looks possible. You feel like nothing could go wrong, and finally life is hopeful and full of love again. That is the pink cloud. It is real. It is also temporary and fleeting. If the underlying drivers like trauma, malformed thinking, spiritual starvation, disordered desires were never confronted, the cloud burns off and the same patterns reassert themselves, often more entrenched because the person now has an identity wrapped around that old wound. And this is the exact pattern Christ described in the parable of the empty house. For a time, the relief feels complete. If the old destructive habits, lies, and disordered worldview are never replaced with something true, ordered, and good, the spirit returns with 7 others more wicked than itself. The final state is worse than the first. In the context of addiction and gender ideology, the pink cloud is that temporary clean house. The initial euphoria creates the illusion that the core problem has been solved. Without filling that emptied space with genuine healing, rigorous self-honesty, and a vision of the human person rooted in Christ rather than in the body as a disposable meat suit, the old patterns do not simply return. They return stronger, often bringing new layers of medical dependence, identity confusion, and despair on top of the old wounds. The trans ideology offers exactly this chemical and social pink cloud. The initial validation, the new pronouns, the hormones that produce some bodily changes, and a flood of social reinforcement can create a short-term lift. The person feels seen, affirmed, and finally right. For 1, 2, or 5 years, the narrative that I was suffering because I was in the wrong body, and now I'm not, will hold. But the underlying issues were never treated. When the depression, the anxiety, the rage, the relational chaos, the sense of meaninglessness was simply relabeled as gender dysphoria, when irreversible and damaging drugs and procedures take their toll, the cloud inevitably darkens. Cognitive dissonance sets in. The person must either admit the premise was false or double down with more medicalization, more identity enforcement, more external blame, and more propagation to bring others into their delusion. When nothing brings relief, despair follows. The same despair that drives the unrecovered addict to go pick up again or to end it all. Now, Knowles mentions detransitioners. Chloe Cole is only the most visible.
That this never should have happened to me, that as a child I deserved better, and also that I wanted to advocate for other children who were in my situation because I knew that there were other kids out there. I'd seen the other kids who were in the hospital system, some of which had already had surgery or were about to receive these procedures, and soon my suspicions were confirmed that I wasn't alone, that there were thousands and now an ever more growing group of people who are in my exact situation. Many of them were also minors. And I've dedicated the last 4 years of my life to ensuring that what happened to me is never going to happen to any other child in America and hopefully throughout the globe.
There are others who now live with mastectomies, infertility, sexual dysfunction, and the knowledge that the medical system that they were supposed to be able to trust, that was supposed to save them, instead removed healthy tissue while the real problems went unaddressed, which I'm pretty sure goes against the Hippocratic Oath. The ideology calls these people bigots or outliers, yet data and human testimony keep producing more of them. The most immediate evidence that the affirmative model is failing people comes from those who have gone through it and then reverse course. Detransitioners are no longer a fringe footnote. While some clinics still publish very low regret rates, often under 2%, those figures rest on narrow definitions, short follow-up windows, and high rates of patients being lost to tracking. Independent surveys of people who have left the identity show substantially higher rates of detransition, frequently in the double digits, with many reporting that trauma, autism, same-sex attraction, or severe mental health issues were never properly explored before medical steps were taken. Equally significant are the voices from inside the institutions that built this model in the first place. Believe it or not, maybe not every clinician or researcher who helped establish the early protocols was acting in bad faith. Some are now saying with evident discomfort that the current direction has outrun the evidence. Dr. Stephen Levine chaired the committee that produced WPAS's fifth standard of care in the late 1990s. He later resigned from the organization, stating that it had become dominated by politics and ideology rather than scientific process.
Number of signs of discomfort with one's natal sex. In addition to other factors, a diagnosis requires clinically significant distress or impairment in other areas of functioning, such as social life, vocation, school, and interpersonal relationships.
When the people who were present at the creation begin to say the current implementation has serious problems, the claim that the science is settled totally collapses. You'll notice the man in the clip keeps returning to his personal experience.
But I'm talking about science, not policy.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm sitting here in front of you as a trans woman who is telling you that every issue I've had before, mental health problem before I started my hormones, is gone.
I'm sitting here in front of you as a trans woman telling you my problems are gone. Knowles' reply is the only intellectual one available. One data point after 12 months does not overturn population-level, long-term evidence, especially when that evidence has already been corrected for overclaiming benefit. If the claim is that transitioning resolves the cluster of mental health problems that accompany gender dysphoria, then that claim must survive scrutiny at scale and over time. It has not. Short-term studies and self-reports frequently show temporary relief. Longer-term and better controlled work shows the relief is often not sustained and that the self-unaliving rates, while multi-causal, remain dramatically elevated compared with the general population, even after medical transition. Telling someone in acute distress that their body is the problem and that medical alteration is the solution is not neutral care. It is an ideological intervention that can foreclose other avenues that might have addressed the actual sources of suffering. The people experiencing this distress are not abstract. Many are genuinely tormented. They reach for the ideology because it is presented as the one thing that will finally make the pain stop. And that is what makes the project tragic rather than merely foolish. But selling a false solution to real pain is not compassion. It is the opposite. It takes vulnerable individuals, reframes their symptoms as proof of a mismatched body, removes or chemically alters healthy tissue, and then acts surprised when the deeper disorder remains. Micheal Knowles refused to participate in the required fiction that a man can become a woman by declaration and hormones. He pointed instead to the record. That record shows a population with severe, persistent mental health burdens. The loving response, the truthful response, is to stop telling people that their healthy bodies are the enemy and to start asking why so many young people, especially girls, have suddenly discovered they were born in the wrong body at the exact moment social contagion and ideological capture peaked. It is to treat gender dysphoria as the serious psychological and spiritual condition it has always been, not as a lifestyle choice that demands everyone else's pronouns and medical complicity. The pink cloud always lifts. What remains afterward is either reality confronted or reality denied at ever greater cost. The data and the detransitioners are telling us which path most people eventually walk. Like and share the video and subscribe for more.